vacuum comes into this location, the valve lifts, and we get exhaust flow into the intake. That EGR valve lift or control or vacuum is controlled by a computer-controlled solenoid. It's called an EVR solenoid, EGR vacuum regulator solenoid. So the computer is going to control the pulse width. It's a pulse width modulated solenoid or duty cycle controlled solenoid. Computer is going to control the on time of the solenoid, which controls the amount of vacuum that's going to flow through this to the valve. If we lower the on time, we will lower the vacuum supply to the EGR. If we increase the on time, we will increase vacuum supply to the EGR, and with that, the amount of lift, the amount of valve opening. So from there, the system is monitored for flow, and that's done by our dpfb sensor, which is over here. So this dpfb, that's differential pressure feedback. It's called differential pressure because what it uses is two separate readings of pressure. One on the exhaust side of an orifice, that's our EGR tube. This will be that metal tube that runs up to the EGR valve from the exhaust. It's about I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch diameter, 3/4 inch diameter tube. So a pretty big tube, and it has a orifice or restriction in the middle of it. And what we'll do is we'll take a sample below the orifice and a sample above the orifice of pressure in this tube. This sensor is going to take that pressure signal, convert it to a signal the computer reads as the amount of EGR flow. When the valve is closed, our pressure in the tube is equal on both sides. And so with no difference in pressure, we'll have low voltage from this sensor. And the range that I saw on actually the flow chart I used for the range, it said, I think it was 0.35 to 1.3 volts at idle, depends on the car, depends on the design. We'll see a pretty big range. The number that I use in my book for you guys, generally between a 1/2 volt and 1 volt at idle with the EGR valve closed is a number that I use. That is pretty standard across the board. So no change in pressure between these two, that means the valve is closed. Okay? And that's going to be key on engine off or key on engine run. That pressure is going to be equal, so it really shouldn't be much different. Very, very slight change from engine off to engine run because the difference in pressure is still the same. Now, as soon as the valve starts to open, what happens because of this orifice here, this upper chamber area will be exposed to intake vacuum. So the upper chamber area pressure is going to drop because of that. And so now we start to create a large difference in pressure here compared to the lower one. The more the difference in pressure, or the greater the difference in pressure from here to here, the greater your signal voltage will be going to the computer. And that's how the sensor works. That's how the system